When you start your own business, there are so many moving parts to navigate. In the early days, you may be fortunate to work with a designer to build your brand story, or perhaps you've opted to DIY and created a that will do for now design. Either way, your brand has hopefully served you well so far. However, as you look to the future, does it live up to the quality that you deliver or the direction that your business is heading in? Today, we are joined by Kelly Mevel from Jam Creatives, who has some hard hitting questions to help you identify whether or not you're ready for a brand transformation. Kelly is a colour loving social butterfly, brand designer, and founder of Jam Creatives, based right here in Melbourne, Australia. She loves creating standout brands for women who are ready to showcase their unique vibe. She believes that the foundation of creating a strong brand story is to design with purpose, connection, and authority. She's also mentioned to us that she gets goosebumps when she sees her designs out in the wild, bringing confidence, building community, and business growth for her clients. So please welcome Kelly. It's so lovely to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Krishla. Hi, Clem. Thank
Hi.
you. Thank you for that lovely intro. And it's true, all true.
So tell us a little bit about Jam Creatives, how you got started, and who the clients are that you love to work with.
Yes, well, like probably a lot of your listeners, I had kids and needed to reshape my career. I've always been a graphic designer since I went to university and always worked for different agencies, and there's a lot of overtime involved in a creative studio. I also worked an hour from home, so I kind of knew on maternity leave that, what will I do? Where will my child go to childcare? I don't know. And yeah, I just knew I got the buzz, I guess. I remember attending this Inner West Business Hub in my local community workshop, and Suze Chadwick was presenting. I didn't even know who she was, but I was just instantly hooked, and I wasn't sure if I was meant to be in the room yet, but I really was. It really got everything moving for me. And I've also been very involved in local community efforts, having kids, and that includes kinder and kinder committees. And through that, someone just said, "Oh, what do you do?" And unfortunately, there's always that stigma. You don't want to say, well, I didn't want to say, "Oh, I'm a mum at home." I just said, "Oh, well, I'm a designer. I'm a graphic designer." And when my kids were babies, nap time, I would not do any jobs because they didn't nap too long, but I'd already have the computer on and it was my pure design time. And I just give myself a design brief. It could be, I saw colors on a wall that day. I saw Andy's Wild Adventures and he talked about a bird that looked really interesting. So I'd make a graphic about that bird, and it was like the time limit. I had to stop what I was doing and never go back to it after, when the nap time ended. And so I started an Instagram page that I hadn't published. I kept it private, just purely my design time. And back at that kinder meeting, when I went home that night, I put published on that Instagram page. And that was the start of, I guess, creating my own business and then shaping what that was going to look like as I started thinking more commercially.
Wow, that's really cool. Is that the same Instagram page that you have now? Or do you start a
Yes.
different one?
Yes, I need to now go back to my feed and see what I've got right at the beginning,
I know, I'm
because
going to scroll back.
I might have deleted all of that because it was purely illustrative computer art. I wasn't just for the sake of it creating logos as such. And I don't get back to that enough of just purely fun, beautiful design.
Yeah.
But the reason is I've asked myself that question. I just love working with women in business and using my design skills to bring their vision to life.
You've combined your two passions and you were honing in on your skills during nap time and now have created something, that's for you,
Yeah,
which,
yeah.
hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love the onboarding process, and I think, I'm a chatterbox, and so when that new client comes on board, yeah, I just love diving into their story and get passionate about, lifting them up visually.
That's fantastic. Well, we're going to see that passion shine, I think, with these questions that we have for you. So this episode is really about, is it time to rebrand? But why don't we take a step back? Because we understand that, sometimes with small businesses, especially when you start and you're just on your own, it's a lot of things going at once. And you might not be able to be all the things. But can you tell us a little bit more about what is a brand and what it's not?
Yes, this is a great question that we can unpack as we go. But I just wanted to use an example of, I guess, ice cream packaging. You've got that deluxe, beautiful, expensive, boutique size, ice cream, and that is the packaging. That is the perception, I guess, of what's inside that. Oh, it's got like even gold labeling, and I'm like invested in, I'm prepared to pay more for that because I know based on that, that it's going to hopefully deliver. So I guess it's like the brand promise, but whereas what a brand isn't is more what's inside. It's the deliverables, it's the product, it's the substance that is, I guess, not the branding as such. So branding is perception, and it's what consumers think about your brand. It's the vibe, as they say. It's the personality, and it's every point of the visual experience, from your socials to your website, listing your services, the guidance that you say you're going to give, but it's the actual deliverables and the values that you put behind it is not the branding.
Yes,
So it's almost more of a feeling. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, and that's why I like to think of examples like jam. Okay, jam creatives, jam. Like if it's just jam for my kids, I'll probably go cheaper and just the not so great looking one. If it's a gift for my bestie, I want the gourmet. I want to see the seeds. It's you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
So it's all, I guess, that brand perception, but it's when I open that jar and you taste it and the texture that you decide, yes, this has fulfilled the brand promise.
It's the experience. It's
Yeah, and it's a hard one because you can argue, and I've read different articles where there's no quite defined definition, like the swoosh logo is, you say that's branding. Well, the brand is what you feel about what it delivers. But the I guess the logo is the perception.
yeah. I sometimes when I speak to clients and they they don't really know what their brand is and such, I sometimes ask them, I'm like, okay, well, if your brand were a person,
Mm,
what would they look like? How would you describe them to a mate that has never met them before and that you think that they would interact really well? And then they finally kind of get it. And it's like you said, it's a vibe, it's an experience. It is not just a font and a color and a
yeah.
tagline. Like that's fine, but that's not going to define what that company, that entity is.
And I think that's where the homework you have to do before you create branding is so important, because it kind of keeps you on that path of, is this really indicating what I'm about? What, I know we're going to touch on it later, but, back to the core values of what you're about when you put it out there, whether it's your words or your visuals, what's the underlying message behind it?
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit more about that, Kelly, about those core values. I'm just going to skip ahead a question, going rogue here. But, it is something that gets quite overlooked when creating a brand. And again, like Clem was saying earlier, in the early days of your business, you've got all this stuff going on. And I think you're really focused on those deliverables. and the way you're going to show up and what you're going to post on Instagram and all of that
Yeah.
kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And it's exciting, it is.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time, but also if you're just starting out in business, you're learning so many parts of the business, and I can easily see, different seasons, different where you're going to put your money in the beginning. It's so valuable, and you've got to hold those reins. And you're finding your feet of, well, what am I about? I'm not sure yet. I'm just going to go for it. So that's where I guess a rebrand is now one of my favorite places to be, because they've spent some time knowing what they don't want, and what they now want to focus on, and what really matters, and who they want to work with. And then, like, I ask my clients, well, yeah, what are your core values? And pinpoint maybe 4 that you really want to be known for. And when you can share those with me, we're going to try and put that in the language and in the visuals, so we can keep referring back to that to keep us on course.
So just for some listeners, just in case they're complete newbies to branding, what are core values? And you touched on it a little bit, I think, but can you define what core values are and why are they getting overlooked?
Yeah, I think we just get caught up in the day-to-day, like what we're either promoting or what's inspired us. And I think for me, to list a few core values is like, I want to be known for educating my community. That might be one that a lot of people in the service-based industry want to show their knowledge. So by educating, they're sharing, they're the expert in their field, and they want to be encouraging, but they also want to show possibly joy is a core value, because life is hard, busy, scary, overwhelming. This is my time out with this brand or service that brings me joy, and own that. It doesn't have to be heavy professional. I want to be known to be professional, which you can, but is that one of the top 4 you want to be known for? Or
I think if
is
you're
it
a business owner, professionalism should just be the bare minimum, quite frankly, right? Not
yeah. It's more you'd
something you're
rather,
striving towards, right?
yeah. So I think, that calming voice, if you're in the wellness, community, that, you're going to all share similar values, but maybe your point of difference is being more focusing on more the positive than what pulls us down. You want to take that path to be your point of difference, and that's why you want it to be a part of your core values.
Now, what would you say are some of the common mistakes that business owners are making when it comes to their brand?
I think they're just underutilizing it. There's so many spaces that touch points where you should always, easy for me to say because, that's my jam. But whether it's, your Google document that you send to a client, that background color could be your hero brand color. When you're doing a live, is your background or your clothing, connected to your brand? Obviously, you've got your website, your Google business profile. Like, there's a space for visuals there that you should have, your key services designed in your branding, consistent use of your fonts. And even when you're sharing a story and the captions, use the color that's connected to your brand, and pick one of those standard fonts, but use the same one all the time. That's, being consistent. And I just think that there's many opportunities that are underutilized in the business space.
So moving forward, let's say us mad marketing mums. It's 3 years now. We're on our 500th episode. We've brought you back, a few times and stuff, because we're totally going to be doing that, bringing back all of our favorite guests and interviewees. We're ready for a rebrand, but from a business owner perspective, is there a sweet spot, like a sweet age when you're just like, yep, every 5 years, review your brand. Every 2 years, I mean, obviously 6 months is way too short, but is there a sweet spot that maybe it's time to reconsider, refresh, and review?
Yeah, I think, 2 to 5 years, 2 might seem a bit premature, but there's a lot of learning to be had in those first 2 years. And why wait too long to get it done for you in a more strategic way? You might now see the tools that are required for you to grow, that a designer can help you build, so your energy can be put where it really needs to be. But at the same time, you might have evolved a few different times over, and that fifth year you're really ready to level up. I mean, I offer 3 different packages for my clients based on that time frame that you are in business, from a startup to my deluxe, which is, I call my deluxe is probably what every business needs, but it's just a bit more of those tools in the toolkit made for you. And then there's that premium, what do I call it, my platinum package, where that's probably your 5 years person that, I'm making some money now and I just want everything done that can be, and then some. And that's, from worksheets, downloads, ebooks, welcome kits, thank you, with comps cards, rate cards, it's endless. But also you can take what the designer creates from you, and you can also then go and build those extras if need be at that lower end.
Yeah.
So take note, Krishla. In 18 months' time, we're going to have a discussion about the pink in our look.
Hey, the pink. Look, I only got one color. You got 2 of your brand colors.
I know.
I know.
I'm happy to negotiate a bit.
Well, hey, ladies, I love obviously your tagline about the field of Lego.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's in that nice white background. I see the Lego.
That's all Krishla's doing.
But it's all connected, it's beautifully connected. And it's also that clean vibe with that little bit of texture in there. But that's all part of, that visual storytelling in your words and the visuals. Yeah. Connecting.
Okay, so let's get into, I guess, the crux of our episode here. And that is, okay, we're thinking maybe in the back of the mind, we're going, okay, I've been in business 2 years or 5 years, or I'm coming up to 7 years now, and I have had one slight rebrand in that time. But, perhaps our listeners are sort of now thinking in the back of their minds, okay, maybe I do need one. What are the 3 signs or the 3 things that are really going to indicate, hey, look, you are ready for a rebrand? What would be the first thing, that would be a clear sign?
Yes, well, I think that when the branding you have is what you thought you should look like in the beginning stages. I think there's a lot of, again, brand perception of, to feel legitimate, I need to look like another wellness brand that you've seen out there, that earthy green, olive, canvas background, recyclable looking maybe visuals. And like, it's easily identified, I guess. It's not wrong, but now maybe you're ready to own your space, and your team's core values, and you're more loud and joyful, and you want to show that, I guess, in your branding. And the brand that you have may not align anymore with that direction that you want to take, and I guess be that point of difference to others in your field. I do think a common path that, you feel like you've evolved, and you've just kind of had this light bulb moment that the branding that you might have dearly loved just no longer serves you. And I think as well, going through the experience of a rebrand can really bring excitement, rejuvenation, and the realization with the guidance working with an inexperienced designer. Like, the more you unpack going through the design process, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm really ready for this. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
I find that with every business photo shoot, I was like, oh, not yet. I'll wait. And I'm like, no, actually, I really need this. It's like that moment in time for the new chapter.
Yeah. It's like when you get a new website, how exciting is it? Like you feel like you've consolidated your thoughts in the way that you're presenting yourself online. So I can imagine that this rebranding process would be the same. It's kind of out with the old, cut off the dead wood, and then what you're left with, you hopefully really love, yeah,
I,
and be really
I
excited
think a
about.
hard point though is when it's bringing an element from the past into the rebrand. I feel like that can be tricky in, are we really moving forward? But then, there's heritage there. And as well, if there is some striking design element within the business, definitely, but let's talk that through. And can we refine and, I guess, reimagine how we can make that stronger?
Hmm.
And that would really help, I guess, when you're feeling like you have no point of difference between everybody else in your industry. And I mean, I know that's very difficult for some people when you're saying you've got a product or a service in a relatively flooded market. It's how do you make yourself stand out, which is something that we touched base with on a few
Yeah.
episodes as well. But from a branding perspective, is that one of those signs that you're like,
And let's face it, like, when I learn about someone, okay, I want to go straight to following them on Instagram. And if I just see recycled content and like a 5-10 years old looking artwork that's just, very basic colored background with a tagline, I'm not really inspired by them. And hey, maybe they're doing really well and not having time to focus on their social page, but I am getting a brand perception from that. For me in particular, I look at it two ways. I can help them, but also, are they taking themselves seriously enough? Are they the true professional? I don't know, based on the visuals there. And I might click on the link to go to their website, and then often I see great branding. I've seen great branding on the website. I'm like, that's not shining through on the social page. So again, there's that disconnect that we talked about earlier about the lack of utilizing your brand assets.
And these days, we spoke about this back in our 2023 trends and predictions episode. The tendency for Gen Z, especially, but I know I do this myself, we don't go look up a brand or a business. We don't go search often on Google for them. We often open up Instagram and type in their name there to do the research and find them there first. I know I certainly do that. Maybe I'm biased, because I'm always on Instagram. But yeah, I think there's a lost opportunity if you're not ensuring, that your brand is consistent across all of those channels.
That's right. And
as well.
and I'm all for the organic, not like must do a graphic because I just shared my face. I'd rather it not be polished because that's not the real world. As a designer, I always give guidance, and I like to show my clients a mock-up of that lifestyle shot, the professional shot, but also behind that scenes and the graphic that goes with it, and how to utilize your branding in all those different scenarios. Because obviously, certain logos shouldn't be used on certain graphics or imagery. You want a brand mark, maybe. And so I try to spell it out for them. So when they leave me, they have that guidance.
Yeah.
And they're also going to save time in, what, this is my plan. This is my direction. And I'm just going to remove the noise, and I've got my path in front of me with the branding that's been created.
Yeah. And if you are showing your face on video, well, that is one point of difference, because unless you've got a doppelganger or you're an identical twin, chances are there's not somebody else with your face, at least not in a competitive business to yours. So I think showing up and showing your face can certainly help with that point of difference anyway, even if you're not, putting up this super polished piece of content with the logo and the colors and everything.
And no one can maintain that.
So
I'm in activewear, a lot. And I know I posted yesterday, and, I'm I still want to look okay. So, but I'll try even just a subtle filter, just subtle. I want to look like me, but I haven't done any makeup, so let's just make that skin just look a little bit better. But I strategically do pick a subtle filter. And when possible, think about, the colors around me.
Yeah.
So,
So
and good
bringing us
lighting.
bringing us back to those three signs that we're discussing. So we've said, okay, one of the signs that you're ready for a rebrand is perhaps you've outgrown your branding. Also, perhaps that you're kind of lacking that point of difference, or you're not really standing out online, at least not in the way perhaps that you want to. What other sign would be a good indication that, hey, it's time?
Yeah, I think you've got to really look at your business name. Sometimes it just no longer works for you. It's such a common dilemma when you have your business name is your name as an individual, I guess, and you're growing, yay, and you could be growing without a huge team, but you're just making headway, and you've got someone by your side, and you want to reflect this change in business, and you want your team to feel recognized, I guess, as part of a collective, not just the invisible help. And you want to
Yeah.
showcase to the wider community the support and the service that you now offer, not being seen as the individual trying to do it all. So I think, again, if you have branding and if you're going to go down that path with a name change, perfect timing for new branding. But also I suggest doing that more strategically, use that almost as a marketing tool and take your community on that journey with you to discuss, changes coming or changes here, and we're evolving. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Let them know your exciting news.
It
Yeah.
sounds like it's a lot of work though. Is it really worth it?
Yeah, I think it is. I think if, you put the hard work in what you do and who you serve, I want you to have branding that represents that. It might be seen as the icing on the cake, but you've put a lot of work into that cake.
Mm,
And, it's just, I've seen clients just re energized in their business
mm.
because I guess the visuals, make them feel so professional. Like it's kind of a bit sad. Like, you've got the goods, but now the visuals are there to kind of back you up.
Yeah, I like the way that you've said that. We've said it a few times before, where marketing and digital marketing or social media marketing, it's networking. You just
Mm,
happen to not be doing it face to face.
mm,
So if you aren't proud of the branding that you are showing within your socials or your website, it's going to show
mm, mm.
in your videos and whatever content that you create, so that your confidence is going to show through and people are going to see that. So yes, it is. I completely 100% agree with you. Like, yes, it is a lot of work, but it's completely worth it, because it's just going to make your job easier in
Hmm.
the end, and you're going to be re-energized when it is time to punch it out and show it to the world.
I think as well, like a real thought process behind all this is that with branding, you're attracting maybe a better type of customer,
Mm,
and you're commanding higher prices for your offerings
mm,
because you look the part. You were always delivering that service, but now I guess again that's that brand perception of,
Hmm.
no, she's legit, no, she's worth the investment. I knew when I went through all the marketing funnels with Krishla, and she was always with Showy Social, and she was just so professional, and that included the workbooks and everything that was so professionally laid out. And I just had no hesitation to sign up to her because the visuals were also, and the content was there, so the brand promise was fulfilled. But, there was just no hesitation because I knew, I respected and felt she was, of high quality.
Oh, that's such a huge compliment coming from a designer, because pretty much everything I've done to date, I've done myself, just using good old Canva. And again, one day, okay, start simple, get fancy later. That's, That's
But
how
you've
we
definitely
all do
got
it
the
in
design
business.
mind, obviously, there because,
Right.
yeah, you're consistent and you across all channels and you think about from your gifts to, just onboarding process and newsletter, everything,
Mm.
is connected.
I feel like a hot mess sometimes sitting next to Krishla.
Yeah.
I
I
Oh, she's
really
like pretty
do.
excellent. Yeah,
things, as you
yeah.
can see. Like I like
Yeah.
And
pretty
it's
things.
and it's a forever work in progress, including myself. So that's where we have to just take a deep breath and we start small and we can build on that. And
Yeah.
that's when, a designer is going to give you a toolbox, a medium, small, giant toolbox to work with, pieces of the puzzle, and you can go to Canva and create those additional pieces and on brand.
Yeah, exactly. So even though it may take a bit of time for the rebrand process, what I'm hearing is it's actually going to save you a lot of time and brain calories
Yeah.
in the long run, right? This is something I talk a lot about. And in fact, we just had a session on this inside the Mile High Content Club, which is my little online membership group coaching program. But we spoke about creating templates for all different things. We're not just talking about visual templates, but templating everything that you can. Social media, obviously, that's one that comes to mind, but for the content that you put out all the time, and just
Mm.
having plug and play templates is a huge time saver. But also just the fact that every time you want to do something for your business or create a piece of content or write an email, you're not starting from scratch.
Mm.
So I think
Mm.
it just saves so many decisions and
Yep.
getting really caught up in all the shiny objects and all the different templates available in Canva. Like I know sometimes I even get distracted by those and then I'm like, no, I just come back to all the templates that I already have
I
because it's
deliberately
so
don't look at
easy.
that because
Yeah,
I want to create original art,
yeah,
but there's so many great features in there. And part of all my packages, I design generic story backgrounds
okay.
that are obviously the brand colors and accents on the edges kind of thing. So, and save that, and I put this all in the notes in their guide. Save these to your phone. So the next time you want to share a story, a poll, a question, Krishla, I know you've got these, have that folder saved on your phone, brand stories or whatever you want to call it. And so they're ready to go on the fly. There's no excuse about not designing on brand, even on the fly. I mean, it could be just a really bad photo you took at a networking event. Well, just pinch that photo in a little and have your brand color at the back there. You're on brand without really trying. It's just, as you say, in your pocket, ready to go.
Yeah, excellent.
So, when it comes to this rebranding exercise and activity, is it let's say from this is more of a question for ones that have that small team,
Mm.
is it a management only effort, or is this like an all hands on deck type of effort? Because I can see both sides of it, especially like there could be too many chefs in the kitchen and just
Yep.
kind of stops. But to you, is it bring the whole business together and helping create this rebrand, or is it just a few key stakeholders that should be involved?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. A lot of clients, when you give them the concepts, I make a point of saying in a more professional way, you don't need to get a like or permission of your mum or your best friend. They're not exactly the expert in your area. It's nice to know, but I think you've got to trust the professional that you are. And in a small team, I think it's really good to take them on the journey in defining the values as a team. So, you've done that initial homework before the design comes to life together. But I do think it's important to keep things at a high level. You're hiring a creative, you're hiring an expert, and you're doing the homework before you go into the visual space. So yeah, I'm more in the boat of less is more involvement. But I just think as feeling as a team that's going to own this branding and showcase it in different touch points of your business, yeah, defining the values is going to be, and the mission behind what you do is more important than getting their opinion on the visuals.
Yes, I used to work somewhere where everybody was involved in every decision, and the pain and the time that it took, it was, you'd end up going around in circles, and you'd end up with something that nobody was happy with.
Yeah.
And it was really painstaking. So I really love that idea. So bringing the team in for that pre-work, for looking at, those core values, what you want to be known for, that brand promise.
Yep.
And then having perhaps a small team, depending on how big your organization is, right? For most of us, it's 1 or 2 people, but perhaps having those few stakeholders who then manage that process going forward.
I think you could, before it's totally signed off, show them, hey, this is, where we're at. But I'd be careful with my words. I mean, if you're the founder and it's your baby, and we've done the research together, we've looked at comrades and competitors and the design work, there's an essay of copy that goes beside the meaning behind the visuals when my design work is created. So, the meaning is there. But I think it would be nice, before you've kind of like signed approved, to show that team, hey guys, so excited, like based on what we work together, this is the evolution.
Yeah.
And I want to share it with you before, we share it with the world.
Can be helpful.
Yeah.
If we think about the government's Women in Business program, or Women's program, or whatever that was called.
The Women's Network.
What's it called? Women's Network.
Yeah.
That's right. Perhaps if that had been run by a few more people before it went out into the world, it could have saved them a whole lot of heartache and becoming,
there can be things jokes. That people, there are things people see straight away that were unseen, and that happens. But I just did some artwork for the school raffle, and I gave it to the president to say, here it is. And it wasn't a, what do you think design wise? It was, is the date, is the cost, all accurate? And she said to me, oh, can you just share that in the WhatsApp committee group? And I was like, I said, okay, yep. I almost did almost did capitals, but I didn't. And just said, I'm just confirming the copy is accurate, please. Because I did not want, any visual opinion on that. It's, I'm again trying to get clearer on the use of my time. And, way back in that beginning committee year for me at Kinder, I probably created like 4 versions of something. No, I wouldn't do that for a Kinder event now. No.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been great. So interesting to hear that process. And I'm sure for our listeners, there's probably a few people out there having a little think about rebranding, or what that kind of next step may be. We've got a few quick fire questions for you. But before we get to those, Kelly, how can people find you? Where's the best place to connect with you online?
Yes, well, I am at jamcreatives.com.au. And my Instagram and all those links are at the bottom of this episode. And I am on Pinterest. I do collect, I guess, visuals that are great for professional photo shoots, as a directory. If people are going down that path, that might be interesting for them, as creating a mood board for that, and Facebook and the rest, but I'm usually Instagram.
Excellent. And Kelly's got a few free tutorials. She's got some freebies and some good stuff here. So we'll link to all of that in the bottom of the show notes. That'll be at madmarketingmums.com/episode 14. But let's have a little fun with just a few random quick fire questions, shall we?
Yep. Let's go.
All right. Blog or podcast, which do you prefer?
Oh, podcast, easy.
You don't have to say that just because you're on our podcast.
No, you're all in my pocket. I get to walk. I go on longer walks thanks to podcasts.
Yes.
And I'm motivated. I'm so motivated. And working on your own, it's another great way to feel connected.
Yeah. Okay, what is the best compliment you've ever received?
I think I remember a past client saying how they really felt prior to a rebrand, they really felt like giving up, just putting the towel in, whatever you say, about their business. And it really brought this renewed energy going through this rebrand and this new chapter, and just going along on the journey with them to realize the impact that they were making.
Oh, that's so nice.
What's the most important lesson that you have learned as a parent in business?
Yes. Use time wisely and get into good habits early.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good one.
yep. I've got so much to unlearn, you know, when
Yeah.
your kids are young and you can't tackle certain things. So the logical order is just out the window. Now they're a little older, I need to get back to that order. And it's okay to love working on your business. I love my kids, but I also think for my mental health,
Mm.
maybe I'm not dwelling on things that don't matter because I'm thinking about my business.
Yeah, there's always that sense of almost guilt that you're not going and doing the thing that you feel like you should be doing and you're
Yeah,
working on yourself. And it's like, well, if you're not your best self, it's going to reflect on everything else.
yeah. And that's where I guess time wisely. So to
Mm.
be more present when they're around sounds like it is a cliche line and it's a constant work in progress. But, I had a stay at home mum. I love my mum, but I really respected the lady two doors down that was a working mum. And that family had to be more of a team effort. And I think that's what I want to show my boys too. Mum has her career as well as being there for them.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, yes, I like that.
Yeah.
And if you can get into the good habits in your business, I find there's some days when I'm absolutely killing it, other days when I'm just a hot mess. But on the days where I'm killing it and I'm focused and I've got the good habits happening in my business, then I can switch off when it's time to spend the time with the kids. And I'm not sitting there mentally, crafting an Instagram post in my mind when I'm
Mm,
supposed to be like playing with blocks or whatever.
yeah,
So I think
Yeah.
it makes that switch between our two lives a whole lot easier.
totally. That and a walk after school drop off just to turn into
Yeah.
work Kelly, in between the
Yeah.
craziness
That
before.
that transition walk. I
Oh,
do that in the morning. Yep.
yes.
I needed that today. I felt like I'd already worked a full day by 9 o'clock. Like it was one of those
Oh,
mornings. So, yes, I love this. Okay, we've got one final quick
yes.
fire question before we love you and leave you, Cal. And that is tell us what your 2023 content marketing prediction is. So, what do you see coming up? What do you think is going to be hot this year online? And whether that's, on socials, email, with websites, with
Yep.
design. Content can mean so many different things. So, what do you think we are going to see more of this year?
Um, Look, I'm just going to say more unfiltered content, just because we're all a bit sick of the polishness, and back to, one of the buzzwords, authenticity.
Oh.
And, I saw just someone yesterday whose business is about beautiful interiors, but her hair was a bit fuzzy and a bit, she was just busy working, and decided to share something insightful and informative. And I kind of really loved, she wasn't polished,
Mm.
and that wasn't even what she said, but that I guess is her brand vibe, that she is real, lives in the real
Mm.
world.
Yeah. I try not to toot my own horn or anything. I try and do that. Half the time when I'm doing TikToks, I have no makeup on, my hair is not done. I may be in leggings, quite likely, but that's just who I am. And
Yeah.
that's how I present myself as a consultant to clients and stuff. I'm not going
Yeah.
to put a face on and be somebody else. And I've had people come up to me and say, you know, we just feel like we can relate to you so much more because we feel like that's you. I'm like, well,
Mm,
yeah, that's me. And, if I'm in a bad mood, it's going to, unfortunately, it might come through slightly, but this is me. It's, I'm here to show you my expertise. I'm not here to show an aesthetic in a way that I find sometimes that gets in the way of, of really showing that you know your stuff.
yes, actually, I've been reading, like, I'm a bit late to the party because Emma Isaacs, this is her second
Mm.
book, And she was just talking about when people present, they just want to be so professional, and they make themselves nervous, and it's
Yeah.
not really their true self. And she's like, if you could just let that go and be a bit more just yourself, you're going to present better, and it's just going to feel more natural,
Yeah.
and it'll come through.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, making mistakes, right? Being as someone who's
Yeah. So just
constantly tongue-tied.
unfiltered content. And what is it called? Slow? Do they call it slow content? Where
Oh,
it could just be you've got the camera in the background while we're chatting like this.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or like
that's
roll footage. That's a bit of a trend
yeah,
at the moment.
that's like the slow content, or what I've seen is also like on TikTok, lazy talk.
Yep.
Because you just put words on the screen and Bob's your uncle, you've got a TikTok sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Love
thank you,
that.
ladies.
No,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
So lovely to have you here. So, as I said before, we will have all of Kelly's links. She's got some great freebies, some free tutorials, including design hacks for Canva, which I'm going to go check out because, love me a hack, love anything time saving. And she also has a new service launch to Liftoff. And so we'll link everything in the show notes so you can find it nice and easily, including Kelly's social, so you can go and connect with her and say hi. So that'll be at madmarketingmums.com/episode 14. Thanks once again, Kelly, for joining us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies. Such a pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. And stay mad, everybody.
Yeah.
Love it.